Alright guys, this is a long playing review for Thunderjaws on the Amstrad CPC, and this is actually a arcade conversion, and hands up all of you out there who have actually heard of this game, let alone the conversion to the Amstrad, which barely saw a release anywhere, but who actually remembers the actual arcade machine. Well yes, this was released in the arcades in about 1990 from Atari Games, and to be honest, it's not one of their finest hours. It's a bit of a James Bond rip-off. And here's the arcade cabinet in its glory. And we're going to take a little look at what the arcade game actually plays and looks like, so we've got something to compare. And I guess most of you have never actually seen this arcade game in action before anyway, so that's kind of probably interesting to look at. I think I accidentally stumbled across this game about a year ago. I think from just reading an old magazine of Amstrad Action, saw a review of this game, and then I found out it was actually an arcade game. Alright, here's the protagonist in the game, Madam Q. Check out the James Bond music here. And yeah guys, it's a bit of a James Bond rip-off. I mean, the clue's in the title of the game, Thunderjaws. You know, Thunderball, famous James Bond movie. Jaws, famous henchman and bad guy in two James Bond movies. Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. And in fact, the plot of this game is a bit of a rip-off of The Spy Who Loved Me anyway, with sort of a amphibious underwater base that rises above the ocean and descends below it. Very, very much like The Spy Who Loved Me. And basically guys, this game is sort of based in sort of two different types of levels at a time. We saw the scuba diving level there, which is a bit of a rip-off of the scuba diving levels in the Sly Spy, which itself was another James Bond rip-off. And on to the second section here, which is a Rolling Thunder rip-off. I have to say guys, apart from some nice looking sort of graphics and things going on in the background there, the main sprites there, they move really horribly. Sort of move in sort of chunks, they don't move very smoothly at all. And not very good for a game made in 1990. Certainly, I don't think this game did very well at all in the arcades. I never remember seeing it. And yeah guys, basically the plot is revolves around Madam Q. Supposed to be some gorgeous sexy lady, but she's absolutely mental and has kidnapped loads of beautiful women and turned them into mutants to become her slaves and soldiers. And there's all kinds of crazy sort of characters in the game. Mutant robots and guys made of lava and lizard women, and yeah, very strange. But it has had a nice sort of sense of humour, like here, where you got to rescue the babes at the end of the level. Yay! So we rescued all the sexy bikini babes. Awesome. And it moves on to the scuba level, and then to the Rolling Thunder rip-off. But anyway, well, let's start at the Amstrad CPC version. This was released by Domark software, and I think about the same year. I think it was I think it was 1991 this was released. Very nice loading screen, and very, very nice title screen as well, with some nice graphical effects on the go. Sort of fading in between sort of cutscenes and levels. They change at various points. Programmed by David Quinn, graphics by Jolyn Myers, music by Andrew Taylor. Well, interestingly, as a complete coincidence, the programmer, David Quinn, was also the programmer on Narc, which was the last video I looked at. honestly, it was complete coincidence. But this is listed as programmed by the Kremlin, and the Kremlin was an in-house programming team employed by Domark. Now, Domark software normally farmed all the games out to sort of outside programmers and stuff, which is why most of them are really varying quality and usually pretty shit. And the Kremlin produced a few Domark games for the Amstrad, most of them not very good. I think Super Space Invaders rings a bell. There's been a Kremlin in-house Domark game, as well as I think Pit Fighter as well. So yeah, and then pretty much Domark got into financial difficulties, I think a year or two later, and then was bought out by Eidos or US Gold or something. But anyway, we're going to start up the first level. Very nice little cutscene there, and graphic effects. And here we are, this is the scuba level. And yeah, it doesn't look brilliant. We've got some blocky graphics on the go. But I like how you got like bubbles coming out the top of your sort of scuba gear. And he just sort of floats around in the water, so you do have a good feeling of being sort of you know, underwater at least. And that's a little energy pickup there below in that sort of blue chunk thing. But we're going to just skip it and try and get as quickly as possible through to the end of the level, because these scuba levels are actually quite difficult and they're really quite annoying. So you've got very little room to manoeuvre, and I really don't like that. If you press down, your sort of sprite changes to sort of a vertical position like so, which leaves you very vulnerable to attacks. And see, I just caught one of the rockets there on my foot there. So you really have to be constantly sort of moving left and right, so your guy stays in like a horizontal position. But there's not much of a playing area. But levels are pretty short, and so that's the first level completed, and on to level 2 of mission 1. And this turns into a, yeah, Rolling Thunder rip-off. But this is probably the best bit of the game. This is actually quite nicely done. It's actually quite tricky. Certainly as you move past doors, like suddenly they open and robots come out, like so. So you do have to have quite quick reflexes and remain ducked. And we've picked up a nice sort of flamethrower weapon. There's quite a few weapons in the game actually available. I think we're stuck with a flamethrower weapon again, which only has a short distance but generally destroys enemies with like a hit or two. Just hold down the fire button. And unlike Rolling Thunder, you can't go into any of those doorways to pick up extra weapons or whatever. Oh, there's another weapon there, sort of a rapid fire weapon, and we'll need it for this bad guy here. Here's the first end of level boss coming up, I think. And he's a lot easier than the arcade version. Quickly dispatch if you've got your rapid fire gun, and that's the end of mission 1. And there's only 4 missions in the game, guys, so this is a relatively short long play. Another nice little sort of cutscene there, and straight to a sort of scuba mission. And on this one you can pretty much stay to the top of the screen and keep moving right constantly. It can vary though, sort of where bad guys appear and their placement and stuff. I think I was quite lucky on this level. Other times when I've played this, and suddenly like sharks appearing right above you and to the right, and other sort of enemy scubas, and yeah, but I just rather easily sort of got all the way through this level, thankfully, because I really don't like these scuba levels much, unfortunately. Graphics are pretty blocky, but it's nice and colourful. It's not as bad as Narc, which we looked at yesterday. These levels look a little bit better, but Yeah, could have done with a bit more definition on the sprites, really. Nice explosions though when you destroy things. Sort of shower of sparks and multicolours. That's quite nice. Some new enemy types in this level. We've got these sort of little robot things scuttling along the top levels, firing out like laser bolts below. But if you can, just stick to the top on this level 3. You can pretty much get through and try and avoid the bottom there as much as possible. But oh yes, we're kind of a little bit stuck here now because we need to jump down, and there's about 3 or 4 sort of bad guys moving back and forward. So we're probably a bit stuck here now. Obviously firing down to jump down, firing up to do like a big jump up. Sometimes can be awkward to pull off. I think I'm going to lose a life here. Sod it. Strangely, there was an energy pickup in the very first level, but I don't think throughout the entirety of the rest of the game is there another energy pickup anywhere. But you get 4 lives, and I think about 3 or 4 continues. So with only 4 missions, which is about 8 levels in total, you should be able to finish this game after a few tries. And we should be coming up to... oh no, okay, just another section here, then we've got an end of level boss. Again, sticks to the top here. Thankfully this level is relatively easy, given we can get up on the top of the levels there and just keep moving across, compared to like the level 2. Up the ladder. And yes, here's the next boss encounter. We've got these sort of like laser things that sort of drop down and shoot energy bolts at us. Be careful with your timing here. Yes, because that one on the far right will sort of start shooting at you. And once you jump up, you can't move. Ooh, just avoided it. Very lucky there. Once you've jumped up, like straight up, you can't sort of control the descent of your jump by moving left or right or whatever. So once you made your jump up, you're kind of stuck. And I'm hoping you've timed it right. But this is probably the hardest boss battle, and it's not particularly hard really. Just take your time really. Sorry, this boss battle might go on a little bit. Oh yeah, so other versions. There was a demo released for the Spectrum version, but I don't think the final version ever saw the light of day. It's listed as missing in action on the World of Spectrum website. It looks like it was fairly similar to the Amstrad version, so God knows what happened to the Specky version. The Commodore 64 version kind of looks okay. I'm not really seeing it in action properly, so I'm not going to comment on that. But yeah, this is okay. I suppose it's kind of nice for a quick blast, but not the most impressive arcade conversion ever. And that's the boss done. And yeah, so we're basically at the halfway point now, guys. Mission 3, which is what, level 5, I guess. Okay, we're inside the volcano base. Well, we're about to get to there after we get through this scuba section. This is probably the toughest scuba section. Not only do you have sort of like rock sticking out, sort of blocking your progress in this sort of cavey thing, but there's actually an end of level boss on this scuba section for the first time and only time. So I'm just going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. Watch out for those sharks, and especially the turrets. I took a hit there. I'm not very generous on the old collision detection actually. And I think if you reach this point, you're just about to encounter the boss. Let's just get rid of him, and then yeah, just keep moving forward, and eventually any enemies on the screen will blow up, and here comes the boss, which is that kind of giant shark sort of scuba vehicle that you may have seen on the title screen on the arcade footage I gave earlier. You basically want to get as much hits in as quickly as possible, because the fireballs it shoots at you ends up getting quite difficult to avoid. And here we are inside the volcano. Some nice lava effects there, and there's also some strange like lava creatures to contend with. Got the robotic mutant dogs as well back. Now strangely on this run through there's not many sort of bad guys appear. And I guess I was quite lucky here. I think other times again, when I've played this level, there's a lot more bad guys appearing. So this is pretty lucky. I suppose it's some decent enough animation. It's just a shame the sprites aren't better to find. There's obviously some care and attention, well, in some way has been put into this game. It's very nicely presented. Very colourful. No music in game, of course, but some decent enough sort of shooting, explosion sound effects. But I'm not impressed by the scrolling though. It's not the best frame rate in the world. In fact, it scrolls very similar to like Narc, which is by the same programmer, which I discovered. And here's the end of level boss. Just getting rid of my flamethrower weapon there. And it doesn't look particularly good because it looks like a smaller sprite that's been stretched and massively pixelated. Now the easy way to destroy this boss, if you can just see to the left of the screen, there was kind of like sort of a cliff or an open area, and you can basically jump up there before you scroll too far across, and then just basically shoot him from there, and you never get hit. But I just wanted to show you what the boss looked like and how you actually how you're supposed to defeat him, which is just timing your big jumps in between the fireballs he's shooting out. And I do quite like how he's like thumping the ground and the screen sort of shakes and moves about. Just little bits, little like touches like that, kind of impress me. You know, they didn't have to do the sort of the shaky screen thing. So they've made an effort, especially for Domark, and especially for an in-house team at Domark, like the Kremlin. This isn't too bad, but it's not going to get a high score from me, guys, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that right now. So, yeah, okay, well, basically we're on to like the final mission, the underwater base. Another scuba section to get through. And you've usually got a few seconds before the enemy scuba divers start shooting at you. And yeah, just take your time if you get sort of surrounded by sharks. I knew there was like a gun turret up ahead, so I just wanted a bit of a clear space so I can get lots of shots on it. Oops, sorry. It was pretty tight here. Ooh. But yeah, guys, I think I'll sum up a bit of a review before we hit the final level. I'm going to give this a very sort of average 6.5 out of 10 overall. They've done justice, I suppose, to the arcade original. I mean, there was an awful lot of presentation in the arcade original. Awful lot going on despite its flaws. It's a very, very poor arcade game anyway, which is kind of a poor imitation and rip-off of a couple of games that have come before it. Certainly not Atari games as the finest hour, as I've already mentioned. But then, yeah, it's passable. And here we are coming up to the entrance to the underwater base and final level. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think this conversion sold in many copies. Ocean Software had license from Domark to re-release all their games on the Hit Squad label, budget label. Didn't even bother re-releasing this on budget at all. I don't think it ever appeared on the Hit Squad label. And I guess partly because the poor sales, and partly because the Spectrum version never seemed to be finished and saw the light of day. Maybe a completed version exists out there somewhere that someone can find. But yeah, 6.5 out of 10 from me. And we're coming up to the final boss battle against Madam Q. And ironically, given I looked at Narc yesterday and ended up being the same programmer for the conversion, like Narc, the final boss battle involves you battling against a giant head, like Mr. Big in Narc. Well, Madam Q appears as a giant head. I think it should be coming up very shortly. And again, it's not a very hard boss battle. Just stick to the far left of the screen and shoot away. And then she's toast. I'll tell you what, guys, though, there's a very, very nice ending to this game actually as well, which I'm actually really impressed with. Should have mentioned that earlier actually, because I bet a few people have given up watching this after about 10 minutes worth. But yeah, a very nice ending to the game, which I'm always really, really happy and excited when there is actually a bit of an ending. But here we are, the final boss battle. There's Madam Q's very strange floating head. Yeah, and it basically just sticks to the left of the screen. I don't think she shoots anything at you at all. She just sort of moves about. And then she reappears as a giant head, which is just the same sprite, stretched like twice the size or something. Looks very horrible and pixelated. But she's easily dispatched, and a really easy game, really. And there you go. That's Thunderjaws completed, and here's the ending sequence. And there you go, very cool. No, it probably doesn't mean much to a lot of people, but I really like when they just put a little bit of effort in there and give a bit of an ending sequence to a game. So very, very rarely appeared on 8-bit games, let alone Amstrads. But yeah, all that's left to do here now, guys, is me to put my high score in the high score table. I'm only 7th though. Well, there you go. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off here and let you enjoy the rather good music actually. So 6.5 out of 10 from me. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you soon. Cheers, bye.